Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Sir Stephen Topham Hatt III, at your service. We're going to talk about my family. We're going back, way back, to the beginning of 1845, may I add. This is no joke. It's a lot of information that you're probably going to take and absorb and realise that the Norfolk Railway wasn't invented at that time, nor was the M&GN or the Great Eastern. My family had connections, family, colleagues, etc., going down the branch anyway. But I want you to feel that all the effort we have put in to get where we are today proves otherwise that this is before NHS, this is before NSFT, so rule them out because they just will not understand everything in one plate. So the Hatts in general, we started in 1845 all the way to this present day, right? People know people, connections know connections, right? We all know it, right? Well, a lot of things that you don't understand, right? The answers were there. You needed, right? A lot of questions you've probably got on your minds at the moment about my family in general. This is not a joke. We are continuing, yes, we have to do it by bloodline connection. Why? The first things first, before I get to senior, the very first one, which is one I mentioned about, I have to get you to think. Because the more you think, the better understanding of corporation I get, and the respect I want, and the respect I need. Because it goes way, way before your time. It goes way before the NHS. It goes beyond the NSFT. It goes beyond that, right? This is before everything coordinated quite well, right? Us hats, we are legendaries. So powerful, don't touch what you can't afford. In logical terms, in 1845, my ancestor, Sir Topham Hatt Sr., was born in that year, right? The rise of steam rises. We acknowledge that. But imagine we have been watching you, eyes and ears, throughout the grid, and it all connects to everybody. It's just not just about that, it's about the way we lived our lives to the full. We always keep coming back because it's literally to do with father, son, vice versa, going down the chain, and then it all adds up nicely. But this goes through the Viking Age, right? You have to be realistic. The Hats have been around for so long. Why? You see, every part of ourselves is part of that connection, right? No one can take that away from you. Nobody can. But the story of the Hats are tremendously more powerful than what you can imagine, right? In 1845, even before Sodor got its roots, and so or Norfolk, M&GN, the Great Eastern, and all of that, or LNER, we're going back, way back, right? We're talking about the Scottish area, the Scotland area, right? You have to be realistic now because now the story's starting to unfold in front of you once again. But this time, it's got to have a positive outcome, not the negative. Because if we do, we end up with a big problem at the end, and you don't want that problem in the end, right? The Hats have been watching you, eyes and ears everywhere, right? You see, the very senior, Sir Topham Hatt Senior, won't give out his real name because I don't like exploiting my family to a very high degree here. This is safeguarding them, right? So the Hats officially returned. Why? Because in layman terms, Sir Topham Hatt Senior was growing up, becoming a mature young man, and started to rule, going into the 19th century, like the Victorian age, Edwardian age, building steam engines, steam locomotives, etc. But then my great Sir Topham Hatt Senior really did his job really well. You know, really deep down well. This is not bullshit. So if you think this is all bullshit, then you can leave the channel and go away. But this is reality of it. This is how we are forged as one. Because we always keep in check. We are in check. We are being monitored. And we also making sure everything plays out correctly. Right? Three things that you have to be principled. Right? Sir Topham Hatt Sr. did everything you can through that part of that century, through 1845 to June 1935. Right? You have to be realistically understanding on this because this is not a joke. This is not a laughing matter. Right? This is reality of what's unfolded, and it's naturally showing to you exactly what's unfolded. Right? Sir Topham Hatt Sr. had to get married regardless, right? And regardless that everything unfolded correctly in the right terms, you can't always judge a book by its cover, but you have to see it. He built by 1883, right? Just a century before the 1900s began, right? He built two locomotives, right? A J90 and a J91. Why? Obviously, it's J1010 in one perspective, right? My ancestor, Sir Topham Hatt Senior at the time, was an engineer at that time. He learnt the methods of working how to build up engines at the time, etc., etc., and then built some contacts, private contacts, people I know of, people that I trusted, and I still trust them this very day, right? Sometimes a lot of you feel like I'm being completely selfish. No. This is before my time. So get it in your head. This is 1845 all the way to 1935 in June. So work it out. You're going back, you're going forward, but you're also understanding why did Sir Topham Hatt Senior got the way he did. You know, the way he formed these two locomotives. Then he became, you know, a life savior on top. So there was a lot of that in play. And then everybody's all clicking in your heads right now, thinking, what did he do with his life? Well, it was before the Edwardian times and the Victorian times. This is just before, right? You got to be realistic. It's very hard time still, right? When it came to the 10th of October, 1883, right? He built two locomotives, a J90 and a J91, right? Just for a test run job, right? To see what works well, what coordinates well. But there's a lot to be thinking about, right? And a lot of you are asking questions, right? Why? It has to come from somewhere, doesn't it? Then something popped out, right? Then my Sir Topham Hatt Senior made connections, made friends, right? As much as family extensions and connections through that as well, right? A lot of you know about the Grizzly family and the rest of the lot of fleet of the LDR time days, but this is when they were in their prime, before before us and the descendants of the families. We all were connected, right? The Hatts married one another side of my family, which then made it the Hatts and the Mansons are blood related, right? That kept the chain in command and going down, right? Every time, right? It was in the end, Sir Topham Hatt Senior waited. He waited. He done his job and he retired at the age of 90. But now ask yourself, he had LMS engines in his name. Why? You had the J90 and the J91 now scrapped, right? So you got to be realistic now. Now he's got part of the LMS department, which is what fits the bill with him, which he became the GNSR in the Scotland area. Buff, obviously, that's how I know from the Railway Children's style. So there's a lot of facts in that too, right? A lot of you, right, will say, who was the next one down the line? It was his grandson, which is my grandfather, Sir Topham Hatt III. A year before Senior died, in 1934, Sir Topham Hatt I comes in. Right? You had Senior, now you got him. Right? Before Senior retired completely, he saved a lot of people's lives. Right? A lot of the people's lives. Respected people's lives. Right? In 1935, he passed away after his first first grandson was born, which is my grandfather. Right? Sir Topham Hatt I had a lot more of a lifespan to deal with, but there was 90-year legacy to keep in check. Right? A lot of people don't realise, okay, you got to work out where the first family connection was made. Right? Because I'm connected to a family that I'm not mentioned, right? But it's not the family connection that I'm after at the moment. That's third gen. But we go to the first generation. But how did it get there? Sir Topham Hatt Senior must have a son, obviously, of his own, which he didn't want nothing to do with the railway, but he managed to keep the family going, the bloodline going, obviously, and married William Lynn's side of the family. William Lynn is based in Norfolk, in Sodor. William Lynn's descendant was married to what you would call Sir Topham Hatt's son, senior son. So then that'd be my grandfather's father, not grandfather. So it skipped a generation to make a generation. So then after that, the Lynns became part of my bloodline, right, in Salthouse, in Norfolk. So look it up. It will make more head sense once it clicks. So you had the Lynns and you had Senior, right? You had proper Senior in play, right, from 1845 to June 1935, right? It's realistic stuff. This is not bullshit. So don't think I'm bullshitting the bush, right? I said it's all played out in real life, and everybody's just working out what. In 1934, there was a bit of a clash because 1934 and 1935 was a connection. Family, friends, and connections all played a part in this, right? The Grizzly family had their descendants, as it goes, and then you had other people as well going down the chain. But what I want to establish to you is that the Hatts were around even after the senior department. We went straight into Sir Topham Hatt I, who was born in 1934, a year before senior's death. So then what happened? I had a similar, or I would say my family had a similar scenario before they. What happened, right? They played out in the right way, genetically, connectionally, and friend-wise. Why? Right, so by then, things had to get very, very forward. People will realise the hacks exist for a reason. We don't bullshit. Right? I'm not gonna. What I've done is basically, I was brought up in my time. It's like I was brought up by my mother, alright? Who is Joshua Hatt. Right? I'm gonna go back to my grandfather because this is where it's linking it all up. So he becomes a descendant of the Lynns, as well as the Hatt family, member of the family. Now work that out. It makes sense. So Topham Hatt I comes in right? In 1934, but he was on the platform in 1958 in Wellsworth / Sheringham. Now, when you say that bullshit, yeah, well, the North Norfolk they will be pissing in their pants right now when they heard this story, right? My grandfather, Sir Topham Hatt III, never made any mistakes. He was strict and stern, yes, I totally agree. It runs in the family, so it goes through senior as well, but we always stuck together as glue. Why? A lot of people say, what did my grandfather do? He got married twice, or once or twice at least. Then you got to realise, then he was living in Wellsworth for so long, he really kept his eye on the station. Always played it out well, done it well. He never was abusive or verbally abusive. Uh-uh. You can't take that and blame it on his own grandson when he hasn't even. Well, during the time of Sir Topham Hatt I, right, four members of the steam team showed up, bing, 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 from different branches. Why? Sir Topham Hatt I, right, family's ascendant, if you will, is from the Lynn family. So that's strike one, right? The next one, right, when my grandfather grew up, while he was on the platform in Sheringham / North Norfolk Railway, bang, right? You have to be realistic. How did it? Now you're asking me the question that's probably floating in your head. How does he know about what's been unfolded? I said it's all in the books. It's all in the territory. I said Senior made more of the effort in the Scotland area, which is true. I'm not lying about that. But in my grandfather's time, he was monitoring all of Sheringham's activity. Why? We were a well-respected family. We did not dishonour you or put you out of your place or anything, right? Then something went wrong. Very wrong indeed. Right? No joke, no whatever. It went down the hole and then the plan had to be improvised. So what happened? Of course, our family is well safeguarded and everything else. But what's the catch? People did not believe it at first. I said, yeah, it's happening and it's unfolding in front of you. What happened was a devious diesel, as you know the story from Duck's story. Just listen to that, because that will fill in the missing blank to that. But I'm not going to go into detail with that. So with my grandfather all being part of something that's bigger than what his money's worth, he knew about it, I know about it now, and it's all connecting up nicely. But then, after being part of the Lynn family, my grandfather had to wait. Sir Topham Hatt I had to wait for his son to be born. Why? Charles Topham Hatt II is the next one in line, as you know, through the chain of command. It's going the right way, and bang, what's going to happen? Right? In 1958, he was born on that year. And that's what spooked everybody. And everybody's asked, why engines, blah, 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 going down the chain, right? Right? Everybody that is the descendants of my senior contacts, basically going back and then going forward again, what do you think? What my grandfather had planned after my father was, right? My grandfather wasn't cuckoo or anything like that. Sir Topham Hatt I isn't cuckoo. He wasn't mental, he was not insane, he wasn't everything. Right? I'm telling you, he had to make a plan, right? Through the other engines, connections, Henry, Gordon. What do you expect? Right? So we know that story. So we're not going to repeat that again because you can look up on Duck's story. Right? You're going to be saying, what the fuck shit that was happening on Sheringham platform? It did. It was honestly doing it on the Sheringham platform. Right? In front of children, in front of adults at the time. Work it out. Well, before the books were fully released, all our information was already in the book and it was unfolding in front of me. Ding, 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 ding. So while my grandfather was just doing his job, like he always had done, Sir Topham Hatt I was just doing his job after his grandfather passed away, Bang! What do you end up with? Right? Now Charles Topham Hatt II comes in. Right? Right? About 10 years later, he was 10 years old, doing what needed to be done, and so Sir Topham Hatt I was trying to help him out, etc., 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 going down the line. But when my father, Charles Topham Hatt II, was in check and played, well, that's a big, dark, big part of the problem, right? A lot of people are going to start asking questions where it suits, right? Right? Everybody knew what was unfolding. No one bullshitted. We got straight to the point and got down to the point. Right? We don't bullshit. Right? We ending up trying to tell you we exist for a reason. Right? Senior didn't have this problem, nor did Sir Topham Hatt I didn't have this problem. All he had to do is put the safeguard in place. Bang! Why? Because he saw his future. A little bit ahead of schedule, like me. But we're not stupid, we're not blind, we're not cocky or anything. So he made connections, he made colleagues. He's all these former colleagues and connections at the time, descendantly wise, right? The Grizzly family, the Thompson family, all of those families, all connected. Why? So happened. Think about what conspired at that time. During that time period, it was a very easy, not being cuckoo, nothing. Why? Right? In 1945, there was the thing that my grandfather knew about. Sir Topham Hatt I knew about. He knew about Sodor Day. That's for starters. Right? But the thing was, it was in May 1945. So it had to be 10 years after what happened. But you see, while this was unfolding, thing that went back, going back into 1934, October the 19th, right? Certain somebody's family, who was my great uncle at that time, Sir Topham Hatt I was witnessing and doing everything he can. William Marriott was the Hatt's main connection as well, so that was all in place, and everything was playing out the way it should, like everything should. And then everybody's saying, okay, Thomas is on. Let's say my great uncle is on in the Norwich route through Lemwade, Hinderveston, and all of that. And then guess where what who Herbert, my great uncle, bumped into? My grandfather on my mother's side of the family, Henry Cooper. So work that out. They were working on the same branch line together. Family becomes friend, friend becomes family. Boom, boom. Right? Then my grandfather did the same thing with him. Why? Because to keep it in the family. Always in the family. Why? Right? Then a little birdie came along, right? She's acknowledgeable. You're starting to see everything unfold. So you had Dirk already there, second gen, not the third gen, not the one I'm dealing with, which is a pain in the backside to a high degree. But the thing was, when my grandfather got semi-retired, because of the because we were a special race, we're not a normal race to work with, right? We always straight to the point, get everything done to the point. My grandfather, Sir Topham Hatt I, got married, as it stated, through someone in Scotland, right? Scottish connection, right? And her name was Christine. So overall, it was Christine Hatt becomes the Hatt or member of the family, and then basically ending up both having Charles Topham Hatt II. This is why it got so complicated in the first place. So when Charles Topham Hatt came into the role, while he was in his early years, 20 years, 30 years at least, He took over where my grandfather left off. Not much, but my grandfather was still in charge. But as he got older, things got complicated for my Sir Topham Hatt I. Right? So then you got to go forward, forward, forward. Right? I'm not in the picture yet, so I'll let you know. Right? So you got the Lynn connection. Right? That's done and dusted. That's Lynn family in Soul House in Norfolk. Right? That's fact. Right? A lot of people say, what's next? Right? People believing it because starting to realize it's realistic. Right? The next thing you're gonna have to work around is like saying Charles Topham Hatt II wasn't born until 1958, but by the time he got to my mother, which is a different scenario, then the Cooper connection to the Hatt family was connected. Second generation, right? King. Then, when my mother turned 24 years of age, then I come into the picture. But everybody wanted to know what Charles Topham Hatt II did through his life. I can't go into deep details because he's done a lot of wrong in his life. Right? He's messed up quite a lot, and he messed up a lot of things that was meant to unfold correctly to his full degree. But because I came into the picture on October the 10th in 1983, when my mother was 24 years of age, bang, right? I was supposed to have a sister at the time, but she wasn't born in my mother's situation. So while that played out, my Sir Charles Topham Hatt II, Charles Topham Hatt II, was not always the nicest person you know of, right? Basically, a bit of a two-faced direction, right? Sir Topham Hatt, Sir, Sir Topham Hatt I knew about this, right? And he was very furious and cross and angry, right? So realistically, he let it play out as naturally, and he did not intervene or any direction, not even the NHS, not or the NSFT, nor the NSFT. Why? There were a lot of things that my family did wrong that I put right already, right? Now you're seeing it unfold again, but what's the difference? So everything unfolded correctly, but why? You got Sir Topham Hatt Senior, who saved a lot of people's lives in Scotland, may I add, being Scottish bred and all. And then you also had my grandfather, who on the Cooper side of the family, who was actually Irish connection. Then you got me being the English connection. So work it out. It's all added up quite nicely, but it always landed back where it begins. It never ends. But the thing is, then people asking about me. Well, my story's a lot longer than what I already know of from my father and my grandfather, and then the senior on top. Senior's knowledge is already on the internet, right? But you got to find the real side to it to get it workable. I said the J90 and the J91 are both destroyed, right? Strike one. But it had to be done for the right reasons. Why? Because he did not want everybody to know what happened in October the 10th, 1983. But as my friend stated in America, the Hats have been watching you all from day one. So work it out. There was first generation, the second generation, now you got third. Right? You have to be realistic what's unfolded, right? Now you got my life coming in, right? Because a Cooper married a Hat, right? The youngest, like I said, the oldest protects the youngest, but the youngest one is the one to get married to all the time, right? So then, in the day, while the Cooper side of the family was very complicated, The Hatts have got a lot longer story to tell. Why? Well, you got me, that's for sure, right? But then everybody asks, why wasn't I always shown in the TV show or in the books directly? There were a lot of not physical health issues more than it is anything else, right? But I pulled through all the time. Why? You now realise now you got my life, right? From October the 10th to 1983 all the way forward, right? Now it's all coming clear and realise, okay, he's telling the truth. I was born in Crosby when my grandfather's family all were Lynn connection. Then my father, Charles Topham Hatt, made it a Cooper connection. Keep it like a family to a friend connection. Right? A lot of people say, right, somebody's gonna click the last piece of a puzzle myself. Right? I did that. Don't get me wrong, the puzzle is correct, the storyline is correct, the timeline is correct, everything else is connected. Why? It all adds up. Then you're asking yourself the biggest question of all. What did I do in my life? Right? A lot of people say, I went to Natford School, I've been to Orsted School, I've been to Orsted College, I've been to Vickerstown College. Why? All connected for a reason. There's no joke on this. This is why it's not. This is why it's a dead serious timeline. Why? When I was young, and you may think I am being plain awkward and stupid. No. Book 32 of Thomas and Friends started when I was 5 years of age. Right? You have to realise I was Stephen Hatt at that time. Right? You have to be realistic and get down to the point. Right? At this point, you really got down to the grit that, okay, he's been to Natford School, he's been to Orsted School, then at Vickerstown College first, obviously, then I had Orsted College as well, right? We established it's been a one full circle, but I had to make tough choices all along my route. I had to make decisions I'm not always proud of, but at the same time, I had to make decisions that were nervously needed to do. It's not about right from wrong, it's understanding what needs to be safeguarded, right? A lot of people in my school years, I'm not going to lie on this, all of my co- friends from school, colleagues, or connections, as you like to call them again, they all coming back from another for this generation in general, right? A lot of you will ask, how did he know that? How did he know that? How does he know that? How did he know that? How did he know that? I said, my family are well gifted and very powerful family. We don't BS. When we do return, we do rise and we bring steam back. Why? We are very proud of our accomplishments. We are always proud to fix things that need fixing. We want to make sure that continues and continues, but there's a slip up. Not for me, but I'm really warning. I said, look, the third generation, I go like myself in general, right? You done with my father. He left me when I was a baby, so that's why there's not much of him. So then you got to work and calculate through this. Okay, he screwed up. Okay, we understand he had his job to do, but he wasn't always on the railway. But there you go. You can't win it all. But I stepped onto the railway in 2001 to be the volunteer that everybody needs. Everybody gratitudely actually understood who I was without saying a word. Right? All I had to do is do all the actions needed to be done, not the consequences, all the actions to get the result. Right? A lot of you out there know what's unfolded on my family and my life. Right? When it all concerns this is very difficult time stream to be meddle around with. I said the Hats, the Coopers, and the Lynns are all connected. Why? It's all realistic, it's all true, and it's all facts. There's no lies, there's no deceits, and there's no dishonesty. Why? So it all adds up very, 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 very highly indeed. But the thing is, you got to realise, okay, I had back operations, I had falls, I had fractured skulls, I had all of that been going down the line. Right, in the day, it's all adding up. But now, you got to realise, right, from 1983 all the way to this present day, I'm still in charge. Why? Norfolk Railway can't pick up the answers now because they got bunch of, they don't know what to do. They know it's all unfolding in the correct way, going through through the life of it. The Hats have been watching you. The Coopers have been watching you. There's quite a few famous people watching me. Why? Because they need to safeguard me. There's a big, big reason for it. Right? I'm not gonna. A lot of you, right, who experienced or shared this powerful experience, don't get me wrong. But when you think this is no joke, this is no everything, it's understanding the principles from right from wrong, right? I'm also connected with Murder She Wrote, The Bill, this franchise, and even Star Trek. Why? Because it's all connected to us. Why? Clues are left everywhere, but it's all anagrammed. Why? A, a few people know a lot of things that know everything we have to follow. Why? I have got to do what is needed to be done. But I'm a very patient man, to be honest. To a very high degree. There were times where I was strict and stern, jokey and cocky, all of it in one bucket. You're not gonna find another one like me, you know what I mean? It's like one of the kind issue job. But when people look at me and say, "What did you do in your life?" I did computer games, computer work, and all of that. I did all of it, like a fair share, and acknowledge that it's real. Okay, it's done. Right, we get there. We're getting to a point of understanding. Right, there are times where people think they know it all, and I said, "You don't know bugger all." The Hats have a private life as well, which makes it a lot awkward to a point. But there's a lot of things that you don't know about my family. Why? What? You're linked with the Lynns, the Coopers, and yourself, and the rest of the family that are entwined with it. I said, yep, because we don't bullshit with the bush. The shameful thing is that the North Norfolk Railway can't see the true story behind it all. I said, when Sir Topham Hatt I was on the platform, he was trying to tell you, but you won't listen. So you end up screwed. That's what the North Norfolk Railway is, screwed up. So they screwed up the results. So probably we screwed up a lot of things that you don't want. And I'm just letting it fly by a little bit because we have to make them see sense in all the prying eyes. I know everybody on this island like inside and out. Why? Because I have somebody safeguarding me. Why? Because it's important to keep the Hat legacy alive and going. Right? Everybody knows that I've got a fourth generation coming in and a fifth generation coming in. But they're my son and my granddaughter. You can't see them in the back there, that's starters. But that's the reality of it. You know, people think this is not happening. Ask yourself. I had great experiences, I had personal experiences, personal life experiences, if you like to call it correctly. And people are asking the biggest question of all time that why did a lot of people don't realise the Hats are linked to the Coopers. So if you try to harm us in any shape or form, you're going to end up getting burnt, scarred, or harmed. Right? When a lot of the family, friends, or connections that I have, they are monitoring me with eyes and ears everywhere. Right? There are people out there that you don't know, that I know. Obviously, I can't disclose those names on the internet, regardless of whatever they do, what we do in our general aspects. And then you got to realize, like, you had senior, you had first, you had second, and you had third. Why? Just ask the question. Why do you think I'm coming out with all the answers you want? And you want them all on a silver platter like anything. Right? The hats are well known to the world. Not just from the point across that you know from the books, but then you've got to work out where's the other half of the book. Then you've got to realise, oh shit, yep, that's the thing about the beauty about knowing it up here. You got to watch it and unfold, see it unfold, because that's the only one way to go forward. You can't mess around with us, ding, 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 because it won't work. You know, in the day, you had senior, you had first and second. Why is the third? Why I'm here? Because my father got married to a cooper. Charles Topham Hatt II got married to a cooper. That's why. So it's a little background as well. So there's a connection there too. So go forward, and it will end up with Richard Topham Hatt, who's my son, and Emily Helen Hatt, who's my granddaughter. But there's a catch. Why do I always get the clues? Because people are trying to tell me something that needs to know basis. I can't disclose it all on the internet because it's my private life. Right? You know, every day when the whole thing unfolds in front of you, you got the whole Hat family. You got it all in proportion. We all had our jobs and chores to do. Then you got William Marriott on top of that private connection. Then when the North Western Railway Company was formed, on top of that, of the Middle and Great Northern and the Great Eastern and the L and the R, then when you look south from Norfolk, bang. Why? Because it's the truth, it's fact, and it's logic. And then the day you've got a hat running around, yes, but then you got to work out it's all there in black and white. You can't change anything. It's the truth, it's the fact, and it's the logic. Thank you very much.